Hey everyone, and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. Want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got a ton of huge news to share with all of you today. Today's date is July 15th, 2025, and it's Tuesday. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day today. We're going to start out with massive news out of Russia as last night Ukrainian drones were flying into Russian territory once again. We have reports of a defense plant that has been hit, and this is a defense plant that has been hit multiple times in the past. I think two times just prior to this strike over the last couple months. So let's talk about this report here on your screen. Drone strike sparks fire at Russian energy and missile battery facility in Yelets. Last night, Ukrainian drones for the fourth time hit the JSC Energia plant in Yelets, Lipetsk region. This facility produces batteries and accumulators for missiles and glide bomb modules. Yeah, so this thing came under attack actually just on July 3rd, just a couple weeks back. And then just prior to that, we had it being struck in May. I think it was like late May, somewhere around the 27th. And I've reported pretty much every single one of these strikes on this plant. So it makes me wonder if this plant actually got shut down because there were some reports just like a week or so ago that allegedly was shut down. But maybe Ukraine is trying to do whatever they can to prevent this plant from going back into production again as they produce critical components, okay, batteries and accumulators for missiles and glide bombs for Russia's military. So this is a picture coming out from that area showing a major fire that broke out near the facility, and the drone looks like it possibly hit the building or maybe something next to it, as the fire in some of the videos that I show you guys is broke out just literally right next to the facility. So we'll talk more about that here in just a moment, and I'll show you guys some videos coming out from that area. We also have reports today of statements coming out from Russian officials responding to Trump's ultimatum on Russia yesterday, where Trump said that Russia has 50 days to reach an agreement to end the war with Ukraine or face 100% tariffs with any trade they do with the U.S. And this also threatens Russia's trading partners like China and India. And today, Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister, he showed up in China and met with Chinese President Xi Jinping, and China's coming out and vowing more support for Russia, and it looks like this statement from Trump is pushing China and Russia closer together, and that's not good news to hear. We also have reports today that Ukraine may be receiving other types of missiles from the U.S. I'm going to show you guys some of that information. Pretty interesting, as possibly Trump could be sending some weapons over to Ukraine that we might not be expecting. So let's go ahead and jump into this, guys. Lots of news to cover. We're going to hop it over here to Astra on X. Fire breaks out in Yelets after Ukrainian drone strike. Smoke visible near Energia plant. Previously targeted multiple times. One person was injured, according to the head of the Lipetsk region. A drone fell near a private residential house in the Dobrinsky district. Fortunately, there were no casualties or injuries. The district head and emergency services are working at the scene. In Yelets, a UAV fell within an industrial zone. One person was injured and is receiving all necessary medical assistance. There is no threat to life. Emergency and specialized services are on site, the governor wrote. Footage shared by eyewitnesses shows smoke rising from the industrial area near the Energia plant, Astra noted. It remains unclear what exactly is on fire. In early July, at least 12 drones hit the grounds of the Energia plant in the Yelets Lipetsk region, Astra previously reported. Astra also reported that the plant was attacked overnight on May 23rd. The Energia plant specializes in the production of chemical power sources. Its products are widely used across sectors, including defense, civil aviation, maritime transport, and the energy industry. That earlier attack caused a fire in one of the workshops and left 9 workers injured. Yeah, there's been a lot of people being injured in these strikes on this facility, as many times as it was hit. We actually had people inside the plants, and that's why we had injuries here. So it is very hard to see what we're looking at in this video, but you might be able to see there is a fire right here in the center of your screen, and this kind of blue top here, this blue roof, is the facility that was being targeted. So it looks like the drone crashed right next to it. I'm not sure what was hit. Maybe there's a workshop right next door that the drone was targeting, but we have seen this thing come under attack multiple times. Got another video for you guys here also. This from Nexus is Ukrainian drones strike the energy plant at Yelets. Overnight, Ukrainian drones targeted the city of Yelets in Russia's Lipetsk region. The strike hit the energy plant, which produces batteries and power cells, including those used in rockets and other military equipment. Local residents reported windows shaking from the explosions. According to regional authorities, one person was injured. Then it talks about that this thing has been hit multiple times. So I'm going to show you guys this video real quick, about 23 seconds. You're going to see the fire that has broke out right here next to the facility. Take a look at this.
Его еще даже не достроили, блядь. А возможно, что вот эти вот окна повыбивал из-за этого?
Да.
Пизда.
А возможно, что, слышь, кстати, не повыбивала еще раз.
Ну, почти, Ирин.
Окна просто открыты.
All right, so during this video, we can see this young woman who is recording this situation here with this fire. Looks like there may be another fire over there, actually, to the left of the building. She's talking about how the windows are blown out and that the facility is not even finished yet. So I wonder if she's discussing the fact that they've been actually actively working on repairing this facility, yet now we have another drone coming over here and smashing into this building, or at least right next to it, and we had windows being blown out again. So it looks like Ukraine is doing whatever they can to stop the Russians from putting this place back in service. So major hit today on the energy plant in Yelets in the Lipetsk region right next to Moscow. Now let's talk about Russia and China getting close together. So here's a report from Nexta. China boosts support for Russia after Trump's trade threats. Beijing and Moscow are drawing closer amid ultimatums, the Telegraph reports. After President Trump warned of possible 100% tariffs on Russia's trade partners unless Moscow makes concessions, China signaled it would not abandon its support for the Kremlin. Chinese leader Xi Jinping, during a meeting with Lavrov, said that trust between the two countries has deepened, that they are building a new type of international relations in which they must strengthen mutual support. The Kremlin did not ignore Trump's statement. Deputy Foreign Minister Rybakov said that the West does not respond to Russia's readiness to negotiate. Moscow will continue pursuing its goals through the special military operation. Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov went even further, claiming sanctions mean nothing to Russia. And he was quoted saying, "There are already an unprecedented number of sanctions against us. We're managing. I have no doubt we'll continue to cope. Knowing our partners, I don't see how they could abandon their independent policy. They have commitments," Lavrov said. Okay, this was a picture of him today. There's Lavrov right there meeting with Xi Jinping, okay, the president of China. Okay, so this is not good news. This shows that China and Russia are going to create more closely tight-knit bonds together. And we're already seeing this with North Korea and Russia as well. And it looks like, Trump's statement yesterday kind of is doing the opposite right now. It's actually pushing China and Russia closer together versus what it's supposed to be doing is kind of separating them. It's supposed to be drawing China away from supporting Russia. It's doing the complete opposite, okay? So that is not good news to report. I'll continue to follow that story, and if we get more updates, I'll let you guys know. Now from Max 25, the Kremlin believes it has the upper hand, the official said. Russia felt the support of its Chinese brother, and it felt the total support of its North Korean brother. North Korea has been sending troops and ammunition to support Russia, according to the Washington Post. Economists say Russia can sustain its war effort for another 18 to 20 months, despite the mounting economic problems under the current sanctions regime, as long as oil prices do not drop for a prolonged period. All right, here's the report today from the Washington Post. As Trump turns toward Ukraine, Russians wonder if an opportunity was missed. President Donald Trump's new weapons deal and his increasing criticism of Vladimir Putin has sparked fear among some Russians that Putin could overplay his hand. Yeah, so, obviously Russia's in a tight spot right now. They're going to have to tighten their bond with China and also North Korea, considering the fact that Trump is really pulling away from what was looking like months back, that Trump was really supporting the Russians. Now he's really starting to support Ukraine. We're seeing a lot of weapons flowing into Ukraine. I've got more information on that today. We've got reports of new types of missiles that Ukraine could be receiving. So Vladimir Putin's going to be under a lot of pressure right now. We're probably going to be seeing a lot of moves that Russia's making to counter a lot of these threats, especially from Trump stating that he's going to put tariffs onto Russia, potentially even secondary tariffs onto other nations like China and India who purchase Russian oil. Things are definitely going to get interesting. So let's move on to another one from Anton Yurchenko. Peskov says President Trump's statements are perceived not as a signal for peace, but as a signal for the continuation of the war. The statement made by the U.S. president is quite serious. Some statements are addressed personally to Putin. We certainly need time to analyze what was said in Washington, and if and when Putin deems it necessary, he will definitely comment on it. For now, one thing can be said unequivocally. It appears that such decisions being made in Washington, in NATO countries, and directly in Brussels are being interpreted by the Ukrainian side not as a signal for peace, but as a signal to continue the war, he said. So this is Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesman, and that's what he stated today in response to Trump's statement yesterday also, that, he sees this as a signal that Ukraine wants to continue the fighting. The fact that weapons are flowing into Ukraine, Russia's not going to stop this war no matter how many weapons flow into Kiev. This is something that Russia stated many different times. They always come out and say that, Russia will not be forced to peace, that they're open to negotiation supposedly, but every single time they do come to negotiate, they don't really take it seriously, is how it seems. Ukraine has agreed to a 30-day unconditional ceasefire, and Russia has never agreed to that. The most they agree to is these short little, maybe 72-hour windows of pausing in the fighting, but for the most part, attacks still continue along the front line. So it looks like Russia's still committed to this fight against Ukraine, and we're going to see this war carry on. Now for Dmitry Medvedev, he's the deputy chair of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, and he says Trump issued a theatrical ultimatum to the Kremlin. The world shuddered, expecting the consequences. Belligerent Europe was disappointed. Russia didn't care. Okay, so what he's kind of stating here is that at the end of the day, Trump's statement means nothing, is kind of how I see what he's stating here. That Russia doesn't care what Trump says. If Trump wants to put tariffs onto Russia, whatever he wants to do, go ahead and do it. But they're going to continue their fighting inside of Ukraine. And on top of that, Europe is probably heavily disappointed. They're probably expecting more to come out of Trump to really force and pressure Russia into agreeing to a ceasefire with Ukraine and ending this war. So just kind of a statement coming out from Dmitry Medvedev today, kind of just mocking Trump with his statement, calling on Russia to end their war within 50 days or face 100% tariffs from the U.S. Now take a look at this from Kiev Post. We can if you give us the weapons, Zelensky said when Trump asked him why he hadn't struck Moscow, according to the Washington Post. Trump added that Ukraine needed to put more pressure on Putin, not just in Moscow, but in St. Petersburg as well. Yeah, so what Washington Post today and also the Financial Times, I'll show you that report also, two different mainstream news outlets are reporting today that Trump and Zelensky held a call recently, or during a conversation. Trump allegedly asked Zelensky, why are you not attacking Moscow? Why are you not attacking St. Petersburg? We need heavy pressure onto the Kremlin to force them to peace in this war. And Zelensky responded and says, well, if you give us the weapons to do it, we'll go ahead and strike Moscow. We'll strike St. Petersburg. We'll do that for you. So I thought that was interesting. It doesn't seem like something that Trump would come out and say, but we have been seeing Trump changing his rhetoric and his tone on Ukraine. So maybe it's possible, but I have another report to show you here also. This was from Bliskovka. Trump, in conversation with Zelensky, asked if Ukraine could hit Moscow and St. Petersburg, according to the Financial Times. The newspaper claims that Trump supported strikes deep into Russia because it would make the Russians feel the pain and force the Kremlin to the negotiating table. Meanwhile, according to reports, the White House has already begun to deny this information. So yeah, apparently the White House now coming out and saying that's not true. Trump did not state that to Zelensky. Maybe we'll get some sort of phone recording or something coming out soon that will confirm that. I don't know yet. These are just preliminary reports regarding the situation, but yeah, two mainstream news outlets talking about this today, that Trump allegedly calling on Zelensky to launch strikes on Moscow and also St. Petersburg to force Russia to agree to a negotiated settlement with Ukraine. So that's pretty crazy news. And then take a look at some of these other reports too. Ukraine battle map. U.S. is considering selling 18 ATACMS missiles for Ukraine and considering allowing them to be used at 300-kilometer range into Russia. According to the Washington Post, the U.S. may also allow Ukraine to use its remaining stockpile of ATACMS on Russia, which is 20 missiles or less. Okay, so we could be looking at somewhere around 30 to 40 missiles going to Ukraine. These are ATACMS missiles that Ukraine has fired into Russia before. We've seen them using these to strike targets. But Yeah, allegedly Ukraine could be receiving these, and these could definitely reach Moscow. Okay, so that could be very interesting, and that kind of lines up with the story of Trump telling Zelensky, "Are you going to launch strikes onto Moscow? Is this what they're going to be using? Are they going to use ATACMS to go after targets inside of the Moscow region?" Don't really know yet, but yeah, allegedly this could be a possibility that Ukraine starts receiving some of these ATACMS missiles again, okay? And at last I knew, Ukraine doesn't have any more of these. They could have a few left, but we haven't seen them firing these in months, which makes me think they've depleted all their reserves of these. So, pretty insane story there. Here's another one now from Max 25. Trump considered transferring Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, according to the Washington Post. Although these missiles are not currently included in the military aid package, their supply may be activated later as a tool to increase pressure if Trump wants to. Yeah, so don't get super excited on this yet, but allegedly Ukraine could be receiving Tomahawk missiles in the future. I think these have somewhere around a 1,600-kilometer range and could strike very deep into Russia if Trump were to give the go-ahead to allow Ukraine to start using these. So we'll see if that happens to be the case. This is actually something we've heard multiple times in the past, that Ukraine could possibly receive Tomahawks. So we'll wait till the day actually comes if they actually get them. But allegedly, Trump is considering the transferring of these Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine right now. Now, for next, weapons NATO countries will purchase from the U.S. for Ukraine are ready for immediate shipment, according to New York Times. According to the official sources cited by the newspaper, the weapons have either been taken from existing military stockpiles or were recently manufactured. Here's a report today. Ukraine is getting a new way to receive U.S. weapons. Here's what we know. NATO allies will buy arms, then give them to Ukraine, President Trump said. Yeah, so apparently New York Times reporting today that these weapons transfers for Ukraine are already ready to go. As Trump stated yesterday that NATO was basically going to be supplying a lot of weapons for Ukraine. European countries were going to be sending their weapons, their arms over to Ukraine immediately, and then the U.S. would be backfilling these and refilling their supplies inside of Europe. So essentially, this is going to make the U.S. a lot of money. Europe's going to be paying for it, but it'll come out of NATO's pocket. The U.S. will not be directly paying for this or supplying it for free, such as what we were seeing in the past. So allegedly, a lot of these weapons transfers are ready to go to Ukraine right now. They're probably already on their way. Now from Vice Grad 24, Germany plans to purchase American MRC Typhoon missile systems by 2026 to deter Russia, says Pistorius. The system is capable of launching Tomahawk Block 5 cruise missiles with a range of about 1,800 kilometers. The system is really focused on deterrence and nothing else, emphasized German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius. The decision to purchase has not yet been made. Germany has only expressed interest in this weapon. So allegedly, the Germans also want to get their hands on these Tomahawk missiles and use these land-based launchers that are mobile. And whenever they fire these, they can go up to 1,800 kilometers. And here's kind of a map showing if they were stationed in eastern Germany, they could definitely strike into Russian territory, okay, more on like the western side, but definitely a lot of very important targets there in that area. This would also protect a lot of the Baltic nations if they were to come under attack. So allegedly, Germany's thinking about purchasing at least one of these Typhoon missile systems by next year, and could potentially be hosting Tomahawk cruise missiles in their territory that they can use to launch onto Moscow if a war breaks out. So I guess that's good news for NATO. Now from next to no Patriots anytime soon. Germany says air defense for Ukraine will be delayed despite Trump's promises. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius has announced that the new Patriot systems Berlin plans to purchase from the U.S. for Ukraine will not arrive in the coming months. He made the statement after meeting with U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Germany has pledged to provide Ukraine with 2 batteries, but the delivery of the first one will take months. Meanwhile, Donald Trump had previously assured that the first Patriots would start arriving later today and would be in place within a few days to defend Ukrainian cities from Russian bombardments. So this is interesting. Yeah, Trump did state that yesterday, that there would be Patriot systems flowing into Ukraine, potentially up to 17. Now, whenever he said that, he was kind of vague about it. He was saying that it was like a full complement, that, there was the Patriot missiles, batteries, whatnot, but he wasn't really clear about it, saying, yes, Ukraine's going to receive 17 Patriot systems. These are air defense systems that are utilized to shoot down incoming missiles, ballistic missiles from the Russians and whatnot. Yeah, so according to this information, maybe Ukraine might not be receiving any Patriots anytime soon, that there could be some delays. And apparently, that was according to German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius. Okay, he was saying that it could be months before Ukraine receives any of these. And they've been talking about purchasing two, maybe three of these systems for Ukraine personally. And it could be months before they even get one of them. So don't expect these to be flowing into Ukraine anytime soon, because I've been hearing a lot that these systems are in very short supply. The missile interceptors are even in more short supply. So they're not really going to be that helpful for the Ukrainians if the U.S. doesn't really have a lot of stocks of anything when it comes to Patriot systems. So interesting report right there. Let me know what you think. Now, Max 25, Pistorius says Germany will not disclose details of U.S. arms to be delivered to Ukraine. We have agreed on confidentiality until the results are known. We are trying to be less predictable and not discuss everything publicly. Now, with this story coming up, and we've heard this so many times recently, for several weeks now, that Germany is classifying the delivery of all weapons to Ukraine. Germany's playing a decisive role right now, and that's actually what Friedrich Merz said yesterday. He said that during a conference that Germany's playing a decisive role in purchasing and providing lots of weapons for Ukraine right now. That means that pretty much any weapons that Germany is funding, they don't have to publicly disclose what they're sending to Ukraine. So Ukraine could be receiving all kinds of weapons right now. They could be receiving Patriot systems. Who really knows what's going on? Because Germany has classified the deliveries of all these weapons to Ukraine. So that's also kind of the wild card here. On top of hearing all these reports that there's delays and whatnot, these could all just be cover stories, and Ukraine could be flowing in right now with all kinds of weapons coming out of Poland that were being sent from Germany. So who really knows what's going on there? You guys can let me know what you think on that too. Now, from next up, employees in Moscow City are being urgently moved to remote work due to the threat of drone attacks. VTB Bank was the first to announce a switch to remote work. The bank's management warned staff of a possible attack within the next 2 weeks and instructed them to avoid the office located in the Moscow City complex. Other companies with offices in Moscow City are likely to follow suit. For context, Ukrainian drones already struck the Moscow City towers back in 2023, as seen in the video. Mayor Sobyanin had claimed that Moscow is 99% protected and that all threats are intercepted before reaching the city. Okay, so we've got major companies like VTB Bank, okay, a huge bank out of Russia that is now announcing that many of their employees are going to be starting remote work at home. Okay, they're not going to be coming into these giant high-rise buildings anymore because of threats of drones or maybe other types of attacks. And I wonder if that's because Ukraine's also receiving missiles right now from Germany and also from the U.S., and where they're probably going to be striking targets in Moscow with literal missiles, not drones anymore like we've been seeing for months. So I have a feeling that's a big indicator that Ukraine is preparing some massive attacks onto Moscow here very soon. We'll see if that ends up coming. Now from Liskovka, currently 3 EU countries oppose lowering the price cap on Russian oil, according to The Guardian, citing Denmark's foreign ministry. Meanwhile, Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen remains very positive about the adoption of the 18th package of sanctions against Russia. In his view, political agreement could be reached either today or tomorrow. So we're still waiting on this 18th package of sanctions out of the EU. They're running into some roadblocks. Certain countries are trying to block it. They're not very fond of wanting to lower the price cap of Russian oil. We were hearing like 15%. We're also hearing that they might lower it by like $15 down to like $45. Where originally it's sitting at $60 right now per Russian barrel of oil. Ukraine's calling for like $30 a barrel, so numbers are just all over the place, and apparently some EU countries are having a hard time agreeing on some of the numbers. So we're still waiting for the official reports coming out, but it looks like, according to this information, we could see another vote on this package soon, and it could possibly get passed, putting major sanctions onto Russia. So as soon as I get information on that, I'll let you guys know. Now, Knoll reports Russia has reportedly upgraded its Kh-101 cruise missiles to carry cluster warheads weighing 400 or 800 kilograms, according to Defense Express. These enhanced missiles are now even more dangerous, equipped with a dipole, reflectors to confuse air defense systems. The July 12th strike on Chernivtsi may have been involved these upgraded variants. Okay, so this lines up with stories that I've been showing you guys out of the city of Lutsk, okay? And there's a major airfield over there in northwestern Ukraine, I guess we could state, up in the Volyn region. And allegedly it's been attacked numerous times. I'm assuming the Russians are going after that airfield over there, probably trying to knock out Ukraine's F-16s, as we're hearing that Ukraine might be receiving some new missiles that could be fitted onto these F-16s, and also Ukraine's Su-24s that they use as well. And we've seen video footage coming out from the city of Lutsk of these missiles incoming that are dropping cluster warheads. So this kind of lines up with those videos that I've been showing you guys recently. Apparently this is actually true. The Russians really are changing the warheads on some of these KH-101 cruise missiles to carry cluster warheads that can cause major damage to civilians. And the Russians been using a lot of cluster munitions in Ukraine. Now for Vicegrad 24 in Kherson, a drone attacked firefighters while they were extinguishing a building after a shelling. According to the State Emergency Service, the firefighters managed to take cover in time. No one was injured. All right, this is yet again another report out of the city of Kherson down in southern Ukraine that the Russians are literally attacking civilians with FPV drones. You're going to see some firefighters trying to put out a blaze on a building here. Soon after, a Russian FPV drone starts chasing after them, and they start having to run into the building to take cover. Take a look at this.
Дрон! Дрон! Быстрее, быстрее, быстрее! Дрон! Чей дрон?
All right, so what a frightening job these firefighters have inside of Ukraine, and kudos to all these guys putting themselves on the line out here, trying to save people and put out fires due to Russian attacks. This is probably some sort of drone attack on this building. Soon after, we've got a Russian FPV drone chasing after these firefighters. They had to run inside the building for cover, and this is something we see a lot inside of Kherson. There's literally Russian soldiers utilizing FPV drones to chase people down the streets. These are innocent civilians. We just had a report, I think it was late last week, we had a young little boy that lost his life due to an FPV drone attack, and he was just laying in his grandmother's arms on their doorstep and got attacked by an FPV drone. And soon after that, the Ukrainians took revenge and attacked back at the location where this FPV drone came from, south of Kherson in occupied territory of Ukraine. Allegedly, they were able to eliminate some of the soldiers that carried out that strike. But isn't that just crazy what the Russians are doing down here in Kherson? Now check this out from Anton Yuryshchenko, a Russian member of parliament. Mironov said that in the first week of July, the inflation in Russia accelerated to 0.79%, which is one of the sharpest surges in recent years. He complains that prices in Russia keep growing. And on top of that, while Russia's fighting this war against Ukraine, their economy is completely crumbling, with inflation continuing to skyrocket in multiple sectors of their economy. Take a look at this.
Что мы реально имеем сегодня? За первую неделю июля электроэнергия подорожала на 13%, газ подорожал на 13,5%, отопление на 13,8% и горячая вода на 14,9%. Скачок инфляции за первую неделю июля 0,79%. Такого не было никогда в этот период времени, и за последние годы это один из самых резких скачков. Что мы реально...
All right, so inflation continues to ravage the Russian economy. We can see multiple different utilities here: electricity, gas, hot water, okay, all kinds of different utilities just skyrocketing for residents inside of Russia. And this is all due to this war. I mean, Russia's spending a lot of money on this war, and at the same time, look at their economy just crumbling over here. And take a look at the faces of these people here supporting this member of parliament in Russia. They seem to be very concerned about what's going on here, and that's why they're trying to convey to the public that inflation is gripping hold of their nation and tearing apart their economy. So isn't that crazy that Putin still continues this fight inside Ukraine while their economy is in shambles? Now for Max 25, Dennis Shmyhal has written a letter of resignation from the post of Prime Minister of Ukraine. All right, so I just wanted to share this with you real quick because Dennis Shmyhal, that's him right there, the Prime Minister, I guess former Prime Minister now of Ukraine. There's a major shakeup right now within the government in Kiev. They're moving a lot of different people around. I believe Dennis Schmeil's actually going to be the new defense minister. Rustem Umerov, the former defense minister, I think he was going to become an ambassador to, I forget which nation it is. But just right now, we're going to be seeing a lot of shakeup of people moving around to different positions within the government. So you might be seeing me reporting that when I come out with new reports out of Ukraine's government. If we talk about an official, they're all changing their positions up right now, okay? There's a lot of changes going on inside of Ukraine. So just wanted to share this with you. Dennis Schmeil stepping down as prime minister, now becoming the defense minister of Ukraine. Now for Max 25, Ukraine has already received the first Patriot 6x6 APCs from Latvia, according to Latvian Prime Minister. Next batch is on its way to Ukraine. In total, Latvia will transfer 42 such vehicles. Okay, I've been covering this story for about a week now, and looks like Ukraine has received the first batch of these Patriot 6x6 APCs from Latvia. These are armored personnel carriers. They're going to be getting a total of 42 of these here in the near term. But looks like they've got a few of them already. So big shout out to Latvia for stepping up support for Ukraine. Now for more translated, the Times reports that President Zelensky has found an unexpected ally in the White House. According to the publication, U.S. First Lady Melania Trump, who was born in the former Yugoslavia, regularly reminds her husband of the victims of Russian airstrikes on Ukrainian cities. On Monday, during a conversation in the Oval Office, Donald Trump said, "I come home and tell the First Lady, I spoke with Vladimir Putin today. We had a great conversation." And she replies, "Really?" Meanwhile, another Ukrainian city is being hit again. Yeah, so allegedly, this is what Trump stated yesterday. Actually, I watched the video of it. Trump came out and said that, yeah, my wife sometimes, she reminds me that Ukrainian cities are getting hammered by, Russian missiles and drones. And, he'll get off the phone with Vladimir Putin and say, "Oh, what a lovely conversation I had with him." 30 minutes later, another Ukrainian city is being bombed. Okay, so it's kind of Trump acknowledging the fact that, his wife, for one, is, reminding him that Russia is not all what they seem to be, at least Vladimir Putin isn't, where he'll claim that, yes, we want peace, yes, we want to end this fighting, we don't want the war to continue, but then soon after goes and bombs Ukrainian civilians. I think Trump is really starting to open up to the fact that he's realizing that Putin is playing a game here, that he's not serious about ending this war. And Trump really has changed his rhetoric and tone recently. And that's why it states here that it looks like Zelensky has a new ally in the White House, as Melania is apparently informing Trump of the decisions that Vladimir Putin has been making to bomb Ukrainian civilians in Ukraine. So crazy information there, guys. Now moving on to another one from Bliskovka. Ukrainian Air Defense Forces shot down 178 out of 267 enemy drones over the north, south, east, and center of the country. Additionally, 66 decoy drones were either lost by location tracking or jammed by electronic warfare. There were confirmed strikes by 23 drones across 7 locations, with drone debris following in 9 other areas. So yeah, it looks like we had a good amount of these being shot down again. 178, shot down. It looks like 66 brought down by electronic warfare. So another very good amount of drones being taken down, but 267, that's definitely a lot of drones going into Ukraine overnight. I think we did have some damage in certain cities. Not too much information coming out in terms of what was being attacked in Ukraine, but nonetheless, there was some attacks that were being reported, just like we had in Kherson. We had that fire over there, most likely from a drone attack, and then we had an FPV drone chasing firefighters back into the building. Now from Kyiv Independent, these are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of July 15th, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. In our final update of the day, Russia's losses as of July 15th, 1,230 troops, 6 AFVs, 122 vehicles and fuel tanks, 3 tanks, 52 artillery systems, 245 UAVs, and 2 MLRS. All right, so still about average numbers here. I'm seeing a little bit of a jump up on some of these. 2 MLRS being destroyed. That's pretty good for Ukraine overnight. And we got 52 artillery systems, usually about 20, 30 on average. So quite a few more today. Tanks and AFVs about average, I'd say. AFVs up a little bit. 122 vehicles and fuel tanks. We're usually seeing about 70 or 90 there. So slight increase in vehicles and fuel tanks. And then troop losses up a little bit as well. Okay, we usually seen about 900 to 1,000. So a few hundred more losses on the Russian side here. Currently sitting at 1,036,290 casualties in this fight. Absolutely crazy that Russia's taken on over 1 million casualties in this war. just fighting against Ukraine, yet still continuing to throw troops into the meat grinder here in this fight. So yeah, I want to thank you guys very much for tuning in for today's update on July 15th, 2025 on Tuesday. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful day today. Let me know what you think about all these details down below in the comment section, but that's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell, that way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.